He is under the weather, so on to your eye will cover for him. Gently. Public speaker.
Sorry, I didn't bring my candy. My bad. I think you're good to go.
It was moved by Councillor Gadry, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Be resolved that council rises from the closed session on March 11th, 2025 at 6:15 with the following report. The council recessed until 6:30 p.m. The council discussed application to committees of council and appoints the following members to the respective committees as follows. Ad hoc Physician Recruitment Committee appointed Natalie Dubé, Christina Jessup, and that Councillor Campbell be replaced with Councillor McCutcheon. Recreation Ad Hoc Committee Advisory Committee appointed Natalie Dubé and Robert Frenger. And that council received an update regarding surplus properties located at 367th 4th Avenue and 1175 Highway 11 South. And further, that council directs staff to submit a submission deadline of April 15th, 2025 for Highway 1175 South proposals and ensure it's publicly posted. All those in favor? Carried. Resolutions for some RFPs were moved by Councillor Campbell, second by Councillor Charbonneau. Whereas the Township of Black River Masson issued RFP number ADM 2025-001 to procure the services of a forensic auditor to assess the township's financial accounts from 2018 to 2024. And whereas the township received proposals from Delta Consulting Group, MNP LLP, and Ernst & Young with pricing and service offerings reviewed by council. And whereas council has determined that while a forensic audit remains a priority, it is in the township's best interest to defer the decision due to financial considerations and other municipal priorities. Now therefore be it resolved that council has decided to defer the forensic audit and allocate funding for its consideration as part of the 2025 budget process. All those in favor? Moved by Councillor Gadry, seconded by Councillor McCutcheon. Whereas the Township of Black River Masson issued RFP number ADM 2025-002 to procure the services of an integrity commissioner in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001. And whereas the Township received one submission from ADR Chambers Incorporated proposing Charles A. Harnick as the integrity commissioner at an hourly rate of $250 per hour. And whereas ADR Chambers Incorporated has demonstrated extensive experience in municipal integrity services, including investigations, advisory services, and training for municipal councils. Now therefore be it resolved that council approves the appointment of ADR Chambers Inc. as the township's integrity commissioner with Charles A. Harnick serving as a designated official under the terms outlined in RFP number ADM 2025-002. Council directs staff to finalize and execute the agreement with ADR Chambers Incorporated, ensuring compliance with all legislative requirements. All those in favor? Moved by Councillor Charbonneau, second by Councillor McCutcheon, whereas the Township of Black River Masson issued RFP number ADM 2025-003 to procure municipal legal services for general municipal matters, planning and development, real estate, employment law, and litigation. And whereas the township received proposals from multiple legal firms, including Loopstra, Nixon, and C. John D'Agostino, Miller, Thompson, LLP, Hicks, Morley, LLP, and SV Law. And whereas council has reviewed the submissions and determined that Loopstra, Nixon, and C. John D'Agostino offers the most comprehensive legal services, competitive pricing, and extensive municipal law experience. Now therefore be resolved that council approves the appointment of Lutheran Nixon and C. John D'Agostino as the township's primary provider for municipal legal services under the terms outlined in RFP number ADM 2025-003. Council further approves the engagement of Hicks Morley LLP for specialized labor and employment law matters, should the need arise. And council directs staff to finalize and execute the legal services agreement with the selected firms to ensure continuity in legal representation for municipal affairs. And finally, that all RFP proposals are made publicly accessible at the township office. All those in favor? Carried. Township of Black River, Mass. Acknowledges the Apatippi and the Sinepec Nation traditional territory. We live, play, and work here together, and together we shall build a strong and inclusive community. A reminder to all in attendance that council meetings are recorded and made available to the public on the township website for review. Do you have any disclosure of community interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. It was moved by Councillor Bouchard, second by Councillor Campbell. Be it resolved that the minutes of February 25th, 2025 regular council meeting be approved as printed. All those in favor? Moved by Councillor McCutcheon, second by Councillor Gadry. Be resolved that the consent agenda items listed on the March 11th, 2025 regular council agenda, specifically items 8A to 8B, be received by council, and that any motions contained therein be supported as written. Questions or comments? None. All those in favor? Moved by Councillor Campbell, second by Councillor McCutcheon. Be it resolved that council receives the delegation from PSD Citywide regarding asset management program. All those in favor? Carried. Which brings us to our delegation from Chris Vanderheyden. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening. Just want to confirm that everyone can hear me. Thank you. Now I'll share my screen.
And we'll give you about 10 minutes if that's okay.
Yes, and that's fine. I have a message on my screen that the host needs to enable participant screen sharing for me to be able to share the presentation. That might be mine. Oh, no, I got to put down. Yeah. Yeah. And now, can I have someone confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Technology sometimes. Thank you for having me present your asset management plan, 2024 asset management plan for the municipality of Black River Matheson. I am presenting on behalf of Sarah Craig, our senior asset management advisor that developed and worked with your town staff. And I'd like to thank Mr. Mayor and Council for the delegation tonight. And Really what we're going to be looking at is a high-level overview of the asset management plan and the state of the infrastructure as it stands today. I just have to get my, there we go. So it's a quick recap. Asset management is really service management, and your assets are the conduit to the service. So it provides a service to the municipality. And as we know, roads and bridges connect people and move goods, get our kids to school and bring us to all of our community events and so on. Community centers and enhance that quality of life, and water provides, safe, clean drinking water to your municipality and so on. And it's just a quick reminder. There's I think it's quite common sense what infrastructure and assets provide to the municipality. But if we take a quick look at asset management as a practice, the goal of asset management really is to manage the infrastructure at the lowest possible cost, and also mitigating the risks with asset ownership. And really what we try to capture is the cost of the asset throughout the asset's life, from design to acquisition to the life cycle strategies of managing the asset throughout its life. But then there's also disposal, and now we, as we all are well aware of, asset retirement obligations where required to be reported as well. And really what we try to do is we develop strategies to get the best bang out of our public dollars. What it really boils down to. What can we do to optimize and get the most life out of our assets at the lowest possible cost? And it is a balance of cost, performance, and risk. And we'll talk a little bit more of that in the next couple slides. If we look at OREG 588-17 compliance, Black River Matheson has met the 2024 requirements, the 2022 requirements, and the 2019 requirements. The remaining requirement for Black River Matheson is the 2025 OREG requirements, which is essentially developing or acknowledging your proposed or target levels of service, if any. And then also capturing those target levels of service will need life cycle activities or events to be able to achieve those goals, but then also capturing the cost of those life cycle activities and events over the next 10 years and building that into a financial plan to support the necessary funding required to meet those target levels of service. As well as the proposed level of service requirements and the infrastructure, state of the infrastructure and the financial strategy, you also have to acknowledge growth impacts. So obviously because of the size of Black River Matheson, it's not as detailed as you would see in some of the larger municipalities over 25,000 population where there's further requirements. So really at this point, it is acknowledging any impacts of growth and having a discussion around that. And beyond 2025, and I failed to mention that the next asset management plan beyond 2025 is 2030. So every 5 years thereafter 2025, every municipality in Ontario must produce an updated asset management plan every 5 years. So 2030 is the next asset management plan. But in between the asset management plan, there's also a requirement for council to review the the 2025 asset management plan as presented. And it's not an update. It's simply once a year, review the plan, report on your target levels of service and how you're performing, and acknowledge whether we're starting to achieve some of these targets or making progression towards those targets. And if not, the discussions must be had around, well, what needs to be adjusted to be able to acknowledge or progress towards those requirements. So the asset management plan presented today for Black River Matheson is based on 2022 year-end data. And the reason it's 2022, OREG requires data within 2 years of currency, and it is near impossible to use a 2023 year-end data simply because it has to be an audited year-end. So it has been confirmed inventory, confirmed disposals, and costs, and so on. So we typically use that 2-year window. So you meet the requirements under the OREG for that 2-year gap in data. The asset management plan is going to address what the current state of municipal infrastructure is, what process improvements can increase confidence and analysis and decision making through the recommendations in the asset management plan, and also looking at the municipality's financial capacity to meet long-term capital requirements, which we'll explain a little bit more about that when we get to these slides. The annual capital requirement and infrastructure deficit. Currently, there's $4.98 million in total tax levy in the municipality. 779,000 of which is being allocated to capital for investment, capital investment. 6.1 million is the current annual capital requirement based on the information and data presented in this plan, which really represents a $5.3 million annual requirement infrastructure deficit. Now, and having said that, we're going to explain a little bit more about what that means when we get to the next few slides. The current actual reinvestment rate is 0.21%. And based on the information and data in the total portfolio value, the municipality should be looking at a target reinvestment rate of 1.62%. And what the actual reinvestment rate is what you're investing in your capital, into your asset management program, divided by the total replacement cost of the asset portfolio. And the target reinvestment rate is what your needs are, the funding that is required, divided by the total replacement cost of your total portfolio of assets. Now, mind you, replacement costs are based on today's current value. Asset management plans in Ontario cannot look at future costs or inflated cost into the future. So it's based on today's dollar, today's value. If we look at the total replacement cost of the total portfolio of assets, it equals roughly $378 million in assets that the municipality owns and manages. And if you want to put that into a different perspective, that equates to $269,000 of infrastructure stock per household. And that's key. To understand, the municipality, the residents understand that the taxes that they pay for each household, that's $269,000 in infrastructure stock. So a significant amount of infrastructure that these tax dollars are paying for. The replacement costs in this asset management plan are based on a combination of user-defined costs, which are maybe current cost today or professional opinion, and also historical cost inflation using CPI tables, consumer price indexes, either Ontario or Canada consumer price indexes, and a non-residential building consumer price index as well. If we look at the state of the infrastructure, only 27% of all assets in the portfolio at Black River Matheson are in fair or better condition. And there may be some really good reasons behind this. We can see that 55% of assets are in very poor condition. But the next slide, as we get into it, will maybe highlight why these numbers are so far in the poor and very poor range. And that's based on assessed condition. So the road network was assessed in 2016 by WSP, and bridges and culverts by regulation have to be assessed every other year. So 48% of all assets have assessed condition based on the road network and the bridges and culverts, but that means 52% of your asset portfolio does not have assessed condition. What does that mean? It means the majority of assets are being based off of an estimated useful life, which is an age-based condition, basically saying if your financial estimated useful life for amortization purposes is 25 years, we're simply saying that that asset needs to be replaced in 25 years. It takes the amount of life that the asset is in service to date. So if the asset is 10 years into its service, there's 15 years of service life left, which then converts to a percentage or condition. What we do know, and I've done many studies with many clients throughout Canada, is assessed condition gives you a whole different picture. Assets that may look like they're in poor condition may very well last much longer than the age-based condition value, and vice versa. If we look at the asset financial requirements, and basically it's the cost of asset ownership from acquisition to disposal and all the life cycle activities in between. And in short, what municipalities look to do is apply the right treatment strategies, whether it be maintenance, preventative maintenance, or rehabilitation, to assets before they get to a point in their life where they need to be fully replaced. Now, the key to this is if we do not do the proper maintenance and preventative maintenance and rehabilitation prior to an asset's deterioration to the point where it can no longer be maintained or rehabilitated, the costs are far greater. You get more bang for your dollar by extending the life of assets at a lower possible cost rather than just building and replacing. If we look at the forecasted annual capital requirements for the municipality, we can see on this graph here that it's based on a five-year graph, 5-year buckets. And the reason we do that because it's just simply it's unrealistic to give you an indication of every single year going out to 2098. And the reason we go out to 2098 is to ensure that every asset has been captured through one full replacement throughout its life to capture the total cost of ownership. And if we look at these numbers on an annual basis, as I mentioned earlier, the municipality is looking at an annual requirement of $6.1 million to meet its capital needs based on the data and information provided in this plan. The five-year requirement is $30.6 million, and the backlog is currently $84 million. So the backlog is needs or assets beyond their useful life and are being projected as being replacements, and that's where those costs come from. And now we'll talk about the levels of service piece. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, levels of service really is a balance of cost, performance, and risk, but there's a lot more to it than just that. And according to ISO 55000, it's the activity of an organization to realize value from its assets. From a municipal perspective, the level of service or service delivery to your residents is the value that you're getting out of your assets. So it's translated into a municipal perspective using that information. If we look, for example, at the buildings and facilities within Black River Matheson, to meet the 2024 OREG requirements, the community levels of service really is identifying what is provided. So within the municipality, there's administrative offices, the cemetery buildings, public works garages, storage sheds, fire stations, and recreation facilities. And for the technical levels of service to meet OREG requirements, they've narrowed it down to these three KPIs or key performance indicators to track year over year, to track your progress. And if we look at the values here, if we look at cost efficiency, it's basically just using that information that I just spoke about in the infrastructure report card is the actual capital reinvestment rate and versus the target reinvestment rate. And as mentioned earlier, it's roughly 0.2% is the actual to date, and a 1.62% is what the target is projected to be. From a sustainability perspective or stability perspective is the way I'd like to say it, is it's the average condition rating of assets. And currently the average condition rating of all assets is 31%. Now, mind you, when we say 31%, the average is in fair condition, that's based on replacement cost value. It's not based on asset per asset count. It's based on a replacement cost value because an asset management plan is a financial report. And then we also look at the average risk rating of assets, which in this case is very high. And the reason many assets are rated in a very high risk category is from the probability of failure perspective. When you have the percentage of assets that are in very poor or poor condition directly builds into that calculation of risk. It's basically looking at your probability of failure and multiplying it by the consequence of an asset's failure. So key takeaways from this AMP, the municipality has achieved OREG 2024 compliance, but further improvements are required to meet the requirements for 2025, and that's setting target levels of service and making any adjustments to the financial strategy if life cycle strategies are going to change. The asset management plan is based on a snapshot in time. It's based on the current available data as of 2022 year end. And like many municipalities throughout Ontario, there's always room for improvement when it comes to the data that's being used to be able to calculate and deliver an asset management plan. The key piece here is condition assessments. One of the recommendations that we'll get to shortly is implementing a formal condition assessment program to get better understanding of how your assets are performing. And also data updates are key. And I'll talk a little bit why that's important going forward for OREG requirements. An AMP it shouldn't collect dust and it won't here in Ontario, as I mentioned, After 2025, every municipality, all 444 municipalities must produce, publish, and submit an asset management plan every 5 years. Ensure other systems with asset information sync with citywide, so there is a single source of the truth. Many organizations struggle with siloed information. The information that one department's using is not aligned with the information that, say, another, finance is using versus engineering and so on. And really, an asset management plan is a communication tool for staff, council, and the public, if presented properly. Some of the key recommendations is to continue to review and refine inventory data. Do you have a complete inventory of assets? Do they have update current condition values against the assets? And also, are your current acquisitions, disposals are also captured? Develop a condition assessment program. I just mentioned that, and it has been proven that that is key. And if we look at a target levels of service, it may revolve around getting better condition in the short term rather than looking at life cycle strategies and targets on infrastructure, because we don't know what we don't know. And a lot of municipalities without that assessed condition cannot make a true prediction of what is required without that information and data. So a recommendation to invest in a program is highly recommended. Evaluate and update lifecycle strategy and replacement costs for assets on a regular basis. And depending on the asset type, it may be every 2 years or every 3 years or every 5 years, with using a combination of CPI tables, but then getting accurate unit replacement costs. The one thing we've all noticed over the last 5-6 years throughout not just Ontario, but throughout Canada and North America is the cost of everything has tripled. Are you capturing that in your replacement cost of your assets? An evaluation of levels of service. Continue to collect current levels of service data across all asset categories. Determine proposed levels of service for each asset category, and use risk-based decision-making to prioritize critical assets. And really what the next steps are is review and refine asset inventory. When we'd say that in 2024, but going forward, prioritize recommendations with internal stakeholders, and also increase accuracy and confidence in the data that is being used. For 2025 requirements, developing the proposed level of service. Now, one thing I will mention, and I want to make sure that everybody's clear on what the OREG is requiring. The Ontario Regulation 588 doesn't require you to set a target. And the reason I say that is because it may be status quo, meaning what we're doing is working. We're funded properly. We don't need to change anything. So the target is simply, we're going to do what we're currently doing, and that's our strategy. If a target is set where we want to improve something or enhance something, and the life cycle strategies are going to change, that's where that target level of service really kicks in, because now you're going to need information and data to be able to track that. Highly recommended to engage staff and public to determine levels of service targets, because if we look at what your current levels of service are calculated at today, it's based on data, but it's maybe not based on public perception and what the services that they're being provided. And you might be shocked to see that many residents may be quite satisfied with some of the services they're getting, or based on the demographics. So that's a very important piece if you can get the public engaged to get some surveys and engage the public a little bit more often. Develop a 10-year life cycle and financial plan to meet proposed levels of service targets, if a target is set, and a review of an A&P and progress achieved to proposed levels of service targets. So that ties it back into updating your data and information annually. Because with this, you have to review the plan, but also review your proposed levels of service and report on them every year. If you don't have the data available, it'll be very hard to report on the progress. So whatever technical metrics, KPIs you have chosen to track, you must keep, well, you don't have to, but you should. It's highly recommended to keep them up to date so your report holds value rather than just being a report. With that, hopefully I didn't go over too much time, and we'll open up the floor for questions.
Thank you, Chris. Any council members have questions regarding regarding the presentation? Everybody's baffled.
No work to do.
Richard,
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The proposal that we just seen now, that was based on what date? Like this one that was done?
The information in this report was based off of 2022 year-end data, which is 2 years current to this plan, which is a 2024 plan.
so you can see we've got, we gotta do some planning, obviously, and then we gotta engage, Director of Public Services and Treasurer to create a proper budget moving forward, because we can't build roads if we don't have money, and we don't have roads, we don't have residents, so it's a lot of planning, so. But
And
you can
that-
see that the presentation is, we have some deficits and we have to fix them. So that's the biggest thing that I got out of that.
And that's a very valid comment, but I just wanted to reassure you, we work with close to 200 municipalities on their asset management plans. This is a very similar message. Many small to mid-sized municipalities experience the same struggles as yourself. It's trying to do more with less infrastructure funding available, but more requirements put on the municipalities. What I will say is I know by experience now with working with so many municipalities that I do agree with asset management as a practice. I don't disagree with the accountability aspect of the Ontario Regulation 588. I disagree in the timelines that was rolled out. I found myself and feedback from many municipalities was very aggressive on the province. But again, that's the province set those deadlines, but it put municipalities in a very vulnerable state, really, because many municipalities struggle with capacity. Everybody's trying to do the jobs that they're hired to do, but they're doing asset management off the sides of the desk to try to meet requirements. So there's a lot of things happening here and a lot going on. And I just wanted to send that message that you're not alone. I see this all the time.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? No? Well, once again, Chris, thank you very much for taking time of your evening to present that to us.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Mayor and council, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Next, under new business is verbal discussion. Proposal to ban windmills within Black River Masson, and Councillor Campbell is going to lead our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there's an unwilling list going around for municipalities to join to stop windmills being erected in their areas. And I think we should hop on that just because we don't have all the information. We don't have all the answers regarding the windmills. There's a lot of questions that are unanswered. And in the future, they've also mentioned that they're taking back the windmills after 10 years. So we don't know what that considers. Are they leaving them there? They own that piece of land now that they're sitting on. We don't have all those answers. So I think we should hop on this unwilling list.
Any comments from council? Councillor Allen?
I agree. From what I know about windmills, and I have family that live down in the Goderich area where there are a lot of windmills and stuff like that. There's a lot of noise issues, and it's not necessarily noise to your ears or anything, but people have sleeping issues and stuff like that in that particular area because of these things. You know, whether or not this is a true study or anything, I'm not sure, but I have heard lots of things where people very much so regret agreeing to it in the first place, had they known the effects that would take place years and years down the line, having these in their communities.
Councillor McCutcheon?
Through Mr. Mayor. I agree with Steve. One of the big sticking points is the plan that was presented last time shows a lot of revenue and there's no risk to us, everything like that. But Steve hits it right on the head. What happens after 10 years? Because these things take up over an acre of property. They'll have a road going into it, services going into it. and 10 years, the province gets it. Now, are they gonna maintain the road? Are they gonna service the property? Is it just gonna stand there until it falls over? There's nothing after the 10 years. And we might just end up in an environmental jackpot, having to deal with these things. Or fight with the province to try and get them to do something with it. And if you have 20, 30, 40 of these things standing all over the place. The guy that it was a great speech with, here's some free money. The bank pays for it, no loss, you just get income. But what happens after 10 years? Like, that's a huge risk, because there's no definite plan beyond the 10 years.
Any other comments from council? Councillor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think canceling the write a bylaw to prohibit right away would be taking the easy way out. I believe as a team, we can work and create bylaws for whatever is whatever we think is necessary. If you look at how many tax revenue we get from a pipeline per se, windmills can be the same thing, right? It can be good for the town if it were to ever happen, but I think we need to work. I think this is the easy way out.
Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to add to this and stuff, I don't think we're getting a lot of revenue from the solar panels in Raymore and stuff, right? They don't pay taxes like it was a permanent structure or anything like that, right? Even though they take up 50, 60 acres. There's no.
Maybe Ms. Larson could help us out if we know that.
I don't know it off the top of my head, no.
Okay. That doesn't help your question at all, is it?
No, but it's just that even if it takes a 1 acre parcel and stuff like that, there is a lot of studies and there is a lot of negative information out there for these wind farms.
Mhm.
And the information that we've provided here and stuff to spend $22 million to put just one wind farm up, one windmill up. I mean, there's a lot of liability and stuff like that involved, so I mean, maybe we need to have something in place at least to not have a private person come in and just put one up. I think it should be up to council's review. Somehow that we have a bit of control over it. And that the land license don't show up, or somebody buys a 160 acre farm, decides I'm gonna put 6 windmills up and not go through council. So we need to at least have that tool
Mhm.
to have an input.
So you're
Control.
falling under the same thought process as Councillor Charbonneau then?
Yeah, at least have control over what's going on, to have a say. And
Councillor Guthrie?
I also agree with Councillor Charbonneau. I think there's too many unanswered questions right now to really make a decision. We need to look into this more. And maybe then we can be in a better position to decide what type of bylaw we want to enforce.
Any suggestions as to we either participate in the unwilling list? I don't know if at that point we can come back off the unwilling list. I don't know what, I've never seen them. I don't know what the rules for the unwilling list are, but Mr. Lee?
Through the mayor, I reached out to some other clerks in other municipalities. They didn't have any knowledge of the unwilling list. They also don't have any bylaws pertaining to windmills at this point in time. Mind you, those are more local municipalities. I would like to mention perhaps instead of prohibiting development, maybe regulate the windmills for the bylaw so that the township has more direction and control over their construction. And that way the option, we're leaving it open for discussion. At the same time, you're not telling everyone. You're just saying you have to come through council and the township first.
Fun. Have to keep in mind too that as it stands right now, without the bylaw, without a ban or a non-ban person from Toronto can come up and buy acreage and put one of these up tomorrow. I guess as long as it meets the building code, that, I don't know if that even falls on the building code, because it would be that'd be more of a energy. So we have to make sure that we're prepared for that. So I don't know if we want to work on the proposed resolution that we had, and that it's, council had the proposed, resolution, but I don't know if you wanted to consider changing that as to, what was your wording that you had used to regulate? To regulate. Is that something that you would entertain?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, regulate sounds like a great idea, and like, obviously, we don't know what's gonna come in the future, right? So
Mhm.
like, if we completely ban them, that could cause harm to us maybe later on, but yeah, regulate would work way better.
Councilor Gatter?
I think we should definitely have some type of bylaw as to the location of them, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like limit where they can be.
You okay to give, Mr. Lee the ability to write a quick resolution?
Is prepared, you just have to swap out the prohibit for regulate, there you go.
Right here?
And the second line piece is prohibited, swap that to regulating, and the resolution will be fine.
Any other, discussion on this before I read a resolution? Nope. Moved by Councilor Campbell, second by Councilor Charbonneau. Whereas council has discussed concerns regarding windmill construction within the municipality, and whereas council wishes to establish regulations regulating the development of windmills within the township. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to draft a bylaw to regulate windmill construction within the township, to be presented for council review and consideration at a future meeting. Any discussion on that? No? Well, having heard that, we'll vote on it. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Councilor Council. Brings us to our second verbal discussion, solutions for vacant business properties. And again, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've noticed over probably more than 10 years now, there are a few vacant lots on Highway 11 in our municipality that are great commercial locations. One of which that I'll point out has now become a parking lot. We're not collecting huge taxes on these lots, and they have potential to bring in commercial taxes to the municipality. Now, I don't know if there's something we can do to either force the owners to build or force the owners to sell. But that's what I'm looking for, is see if we can get some ideas on what we can do with these vacant lots.
Open for discussion, council? Councilor Allen?
I know the one lot that Steve's talking about that's turned into a parking lot, and I know that I spent a lot of time trying to reach out to that company that owns that parking lot. Because I do know some people who were willing to put up a commercial building and create a business there. And that company, not only didn't get back to me, but didn't get back to anyone. And no one had, well, unless you're in the company, no one had ideas of what they were doing with that property. But I do know that there were several people interested, because when I talked to a real estate agent, they said, oh, you're not the only one that's called about this, and has had a hard time trying to deal with it. And I agree with Steve wholeheartedly that there's a lot of opportunity on the highway, and it's kind of not being used. So if there's a way, one of the things that I noticed when I was looking into opening a business was management at the time had let me know that the commercial property along the highway, the zoning for it is highway zoning, I believe. highway commercial. So therefore, any business that was on highway commercial, again, from my understanding, had to have some sort of connection to traffic flowing through Highway 11. So it had to have something to do with automotive or things like that. I was told that if I were to put up a business, that I would have to have a drive-through in order to fully comply with those zonings, so that the zoning didn't have to be changed to a commercial zoning versus a highway commercial zoning. So that was an issue that I was running into. So that means unless you had a drive-through window, or you were a car parts or a gas station, or something that was directly tied directly to autos of some sort, then it was not going to be acceptable.
Counselor Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To piggyback on Counselor Allen's comments, I was actually in contact, not to make it sound like I have the discrepancy here, but I was actually in contact with the company that owns that lot. And I was trying to buy both the lots that they own on Highway 11. And they almost sold them to me. And then in the end, they turned around and said, no, we're gonna list them. So I waited for them to list them, waited for them to list them. They never listed them.
Okay.
And then I reached out to them again using the same contacts. And then they said that, oh, we may put up a building for the company there. And again, this still hasn't happened.
Counselor McCutcheon?
Through Mr. Mayor, would this not fall underneath the scope of our economic development committee? Didn't we just let the committee reach out to these individuals? And
We have a proposed resolution here. I don't think we're in a position to tell an existing property owner what they can or can't do with a piece of property, but I think maybe moving forward we could, but I agree with you, maybe as on this economic development committee, if we were eager enough and aggressive enough, we could approach all these individuals or corporation businesses that own this and show them how eager we are and work with them to build, because for the last many years, no one wanted to be here, but now we're pushing. So I think I agree with you there. Councilor Sherrill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilor McCutcheon. I was thinking the same thing, because I think to force them is not right. Like, if you have a 1,000 square foot building and we're forcing you to go 2,000 square foot because it's not enough taxes, it's the same logic, right?
Mhm.
So you can't really force people, but the economic development committee could reach out and say, listen, what if we could lease you this 2 acres of your property because this company wants to do this, and we can work with these people.
Mhm.
I think that would be the most advantageous.
Again, coming back to let's help you, let's not hinder you.
Yeah.
And in the end is to gain more taxes, to gain more people driving through our town stopping.
Force was the wrong word to use. It's the only one that came to mind.
Councilor Allen?
Oh, I just forgot where I was.
It was a lie.
Councilor Bouchard?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think the option there is to definitely for municipality is it's a prime lot. And I think with the economic development committee, maybe they can approach this company and say, hey, the municipality is ready to trade you this piece of land, because it's only a parking lot anyways. We'll trade you this piece of land and we take possession of this lot to make it for a restaurant or whatever, so that we can develop the corridor for something more diverse. So I think that's maybe something that they could look at, but for sure, you can't force anybody, like, once you own the land, it's yours to do what you want, but maybe that's an approach that we can do and say, listen, like, it's prime real estate. Would you consider if we offered you this piece of land and trade just for parking? Would you consider giving it back or selling it or trading and stuff like that? So I think that's an option to look at, but you can't force the company to sell it if they don't want to sell it.
Steve takes back the word force. Councilor Gadry?
I agree with Councilor McCutcheon as well. But maybe moving forward, if some of these lots actually sell, maybe we can have a stipulation that they have to be, you know, put a business on it or a building or something.
I think if we do a great job in promoting Black River Masson, if we take our economic development committee and we actually get some buildings start to go up, those landowners are gonna want to be part of it. Right now, they don't want to, but so let's put the onus and the effort on our council and our staff to make people want to be here. Any other questions or comments? We have a proposed resolution here. That doesn't include the word force. I'll read it and we'll take a look. Moved by Councillor Campbell, second by Councillor McCutcheon. Whereas council has discussed the issue of vacant business properties within the municipality, and whereas council recognizes the importance of addressing and revitalizing these properties to support economic growth and community development. Now therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to refer this item to the Economic Development Committee for discussion. Any comments on that resolution? Councillor Campbell, you okay with that? Yep. Having heard that, we'll vote on it. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Moves us to verbal discussion on council feedback on the 2025 budget schedule. Who's doing that? Us? Oh, Ms. Larson, please go ahead.
So we are looking to schedule meetings. And we're coming to you to see how you want to deal with budget meetings. Do you want to take a couple days? Do you want evening meetings? Do you want Saturday meetings? We are looking at doing like admin, PPE, museum, library, kind of in one sitting. Rec and Public Works in one because that's huge, and then water and sewer in another. So we're looking to start the last week in March, but the last Saturday in March is not available.
No. I'll just jump in first. I don't think Saturdays. We're a lot of cottage country, so I don't want to take a Friday night or a Saturday away from individuals, so that would be just my first comment. Councillor Campbell or Charbonneau?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How long do you think these meetings would be? Like 3-4 hours each? Something like that?
Well, you're going line by line. It's going to be a few hours.
Because in the evening would be fine, and then if you can't do it, just go schedule another one.
Yeah, like I'm looking for you to think at least 3. If you're doing evenings, at least 3 evenings.
Three evenings?
Yes.
Okay. Pardon me?
Whenever.
Councillor Allen.
Sonia, you had said the last week in March is when you wanted to start,
That's what the goal is, yeah.
like the 24th? That week?
Yes.
Myself and the Director of Public Services are gone the end of that week for Good Roads. No, that doesn't help the issue. And we arrive back on the 2nd and leave on the 29th. Councillor Allen?
I won't be available for that week either.
Not for that week at all.
No.
Mr. Lee?
I'm gonna throw this out there, the week of April. From the 7th to the 15th, I'm away.
Lee?
Through the mayor, can offer a suggestion just to save some time. I can send out a survey
Yes.
from the end of March until basically April through May. Everyone
Mhm.
just give me your,
No.
No, we want the budget passed in April. We would like to see the budget passed in April. We have water billing due May 1st, so
Really?
yeah, so then hanging off that, open schedule for the entire month of March, starting tomorrow. Everybody give me your availability and whatever days that we can do, we'll do. Because time is of the essence, and if we want to pass in April, then do what we can.
And would we do water sewer first because would that be easier? Or can we just leave it up to staff to take our availability and create the dates? Counselor Bouchard?
Yes, can't we just schedule like a Tuesday night and a Thursday night? Like for the first week and the second, and the next week we do a Tuesday, whatever works. And
Yeah, if Mr. Lee takes our schedule and does all that and then just reports back to us. I don't think we have to have a formal resolution to create a meeting. Okay. I think that'd be easiest, because we could sit here for
Yeah.
next 3 hours saying I'm
Yeah.
available, I am, you are.
Oh,
Without, you just want our schedules, you can do one of those.
I'm gonna send out a
survey
survey.
monkey thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I agree, the sooner the better, because that's, we gotta get this going. That, okay? Perfect. Maybe we could put a new chair in the budget too.
Trying to get yours.
a little bit of grace.
So we don't need to do a resolution for that? No, we're good. Okay. And we move on to 10D verbal update, commercial business recycling status. And as I mentioned, our Director of Public Services is under the weather tonight. You want me to read or are you gonna read that? Okay. All right,
So through the mayor, update on the commercial recycling situation. Director of Public Services has reached out to individual businesses in town to discuss options for recycling services through GFL Environmental. So the cost is about 25 for pickup for each business. It's an easier solution for the township in trying to get bins at the arena. The Director of Public Services will continue to maintain communication with all businesses to ensure that the recycling is picked up properly. And we can always have the option for the bins later on if it becomes an issue. But for now, the businesses will deal with it on their own.
Councillor Allen.
Just clarification, so the business is $25 per business?
They'll do their own contract with GFL.
Okay.
Depends on how many pickups.
And just to add on that is, the Director of Public Services has already gone to quite a few businesses and explained this procedure to them, and all of them have been receptive. Because the way they had figured is, if the bin was at a different location, I still had to put it into a truck or a trailer in the back of a car and drive it, or go to dump. For $25, it didn't cover an hour of my time, so. And a couple of businesses have called me already to say they're happy that we've actually had an individual walk the streets and go see business owners, so. Yeah, that was good too. That was good comments coming back from the town. Councillor Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this gonna include all businesses?
Through the mayor, as far as I know, unfortunately, I'm speaking for Director of Public Services. He was supposed to be here and he couldn't make it. But we can follow up, but as far as I know, yes.
And the contract would be direct from the business owner to GFL. So it's nothing, there's no subsidy, cost savings, anything in it for the town. But unfortunately, when in December, beginning January, the province downloaded this onto us. So it's not something that we caused, not something that we did, so we're just trying to help solution here. And it's not just, it's 444 municipalities across Ontario. Councillor Bouchard?
yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of the businesses that were approached, so to clarify that they're saying it's gonna be $25 per pickup. So if I put 6 bags at the road every week, it's gonna cost me $25 a week to get them, or,
Recycling.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Big bins.
Big bins.
Yeah, but I usually go to the dump and I fill up 7 of their bins my recycling, but only bring it twice a year because we have to accumulate it. Basically, it's building up in my cold storage right now and we bring it there in a trailer, a 16-foot trailer, like sometimes 3 loads.
It's not mandatory. It won't, like, you
You can still bring it to the dump.
can still bring it to the dump, exactly. But if the option is there, we're just trying to find, because we've, all of Ontario was left out in the cold, so. If this is something you'd be interested in having a bin where you could just go and dump it on a daily basis instead of taking up, tons of space in your shop. You could contact GFL. The reason the Director of Public Services went to a few businesses was just to get the appetite. He's not there to make the deal or consummate the deal. He's just trying to give an idea. Councilor Bouchard?
Thanks again. So my understanding is we can have a weekly fee for them to pick up at our residence, or we can have a fee for a bin, right? One or the other? No,
This is commercial,
I'm commercial,
totally commercial.
but I don't understand, or like you said, $25, is that for them to pick up at their commercial residence, or is it for us to have? So if we want a bin, it would be separate.
At your business, your commercial business.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So you'd have a bin, on your driveway, and you'd have a bin. And you can go through all your recycling.
There's a fee, there's a cost for that.
No.
Okay. I'll have to clarify that later.
Counselor Goddard?
I just had a question. Does this apply just to Matheson? Thank you.
Again, it's just a proposal. We're trying to help all of our residents. Any other questions or comments? And that's just a verbal update. It's just sort of where we're heading. Nothing is
Okay.
formal right now. Okay. We're gonna move on to reports. It was moved by Councillor McCutcheon, second by Councillor Gadry. Be it resolved that council acknowledges the receipt of T 2025-008 capital expense report as attached for information purposes. Ms. Larson, did you want to give a verbal on this to help out
Sure, I can.
the case?
In trying to get the state of our financial affairs in order. We've been dealing with a lot of the capital grant funding that are in the works or closed or
Sorry.
this first project, retrofit arena refrigeration. There was work done on I want to say the condenser. It wasn't shown in the budget where this money was going to be funded through. So 290,000, we're suggesting that we use the OSIP grant to cover it. This grant is a conditional grant as well. It can only be applied to certain projects, but it also, as you know, it has like a 5-year term. Like if you don't use the money within 5 years, we're gonna start losing it, and we are gonna start losing these funds. So rather than, and putting it through the tax levy, we have a grant, let's use the grant. The solar project at the arena went over budget. I've been back and forth with the number on this, and we found a few other things since I drafted this report. The shortfall is actually 342,221.54, and we are asking for direction to use the CCBF funds. Again, these funds, if we don't use it, we will lose the funding. And again, doing it this way, we're not using reserves, we're not impacting the tax rates or anything.
Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering what else that fund or grant can or will, or is there any plans already for any of that money to be used for anything else?
The mayor to Counselor Bruce, or Counselor Allen. So we're still looking, there is still some of the CCBF that I think is going to, will still be used for the solar project, because there's still costs expected in 2025, so we can cover that. They're very specific, and I didn't bring each of the different the lists of what was allowed to use, eligible costs, let's say. We also have NORDS funding, which is along the same lines. If you don't use it, lose it. That funding has been used towards the Balgorny and Monahan Road. So we have a little less money in that fund, I believe. But for a project this year, you know, it's something we could put in the works and at least have grant funding available for it, so it doesn't impact. But they're very specific, like some are for water, some are for roads, some are for, some's for rec. I'll have to look at them. I could send you it all to one.
Counselor Allen?
Following that, would, that fund be useful to the Economic Development Committee? As just somewhere to help with them going in a direction where they could use it going forward, or, you know, make plans with it?
It's very specific, and I'll have to look at what exactly it can be used for.
Okay.
So when we do our budget meetings, we'll be able to see how much project we want done, how much it cost our township, and what leftover grants we have. And at that time, we can take and say, apply it to here and here to reduce the burden of the taxpayers. Counselor Charbonneau?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, I'd like to say, I agree with the treasurer, and these recommendations are great. For now, that's what I would do anyways, and then something comes up, you're spending the money anyways.
I'll take a second to commend you and your staff for, I know it's been heartache to try and find where all these grants have come in and where they're going, and, you know, they're hidden on shelves, and so it's, I know it's been a tough 3-4 months, so, to see where we are today, that we actually have a dollar value is tremendous work. But you can also see that what we inherited on the arena project and the solar panels wasn't the best of written or unwritten contracts. So it went from one council and one set of staff to us in the beginning, and Mr. LaFay was helping us, and he inherited, and we're trying to ask him questions, and he's trying to scratch his head as to where this, and now we're on to Mr. Lee and all sorts of things. So where we are today is light years ahead. So, you know, commendation to you and to everybody that had their hand in it. At least we can put this to bed and everybody can move forward, and we can learn a good lesson from taking a grant to do a project and not be fully versed on all the costs. Any other questions or comments before we move on? No? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councilor Charbonneau, second by Councilor Council. Be it resolved that Council acknowledges receipt of DPSM 2025-007 solar panel project memo as attached for information purposes. Do you have any questions or comments on that? Again, that was a treasure fact finding just to get us to where we are today. Questions?
Sorry,
Councilor Bouchard?
which item are we talking about now?
We're on the solar panels.
Okay.
2025-007. Counselor Bouchard.
Okay, sorry about that. I was reading as you're talking, it says in here that we have to add the wireless and all the ATS device and all that. Is that absolutely necessary? For what reason?
Mr. Lee?
So through the mayor, again, I'm speaking for Director of Public Services, so I'll do my best to fill in the information. It's required so that we can remotely monitor the setup. If no one's around during the weekend and it goes down, you want to be able to respond to it, fix the error so that the solar panels are back online as soon as possible. We don't have someone there 24/7 to watch the system, so it's good to have internet access so we can see the system online.
Counselor Bouchard?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The thing is that the solar panels are connected to the arena, so the feed from the electricity is coming into the arena. So why can't we just monitor the electricity coming into the arena? Why do we have to monitor it out in the field? Like, you're getting like, 500 watts coming in every day. And it comes into the arena, so why do we have to go a remote system to monitor? I just don't understand it. I think we need to look at other options. And secondly, why are we going with ATS?
Did you want to handle that?
Through the mayor, I can add a couple of comments. ATS is our internet service provider. We have to go through them because if we get another party to install the system, if there's any issue, then ATS will go, we didn't install it, and they'll charge us extra to resolve the issue. When it's their tech, their setup, they're familiar with the hardware and the system, so they can troubleshoot a lot easier.
As for, are you referring to why does it have to be remote and why can't we just have the data on a wall in the arena? Is that was your?
No, sorry, what I'm saying is that you can still extract the data, but on the wall in the arena, not necessarily remotely. So you can still get that data because it's coming into the building anyways.
Yeah, but they're trying to do it in a timely fashion, so if it goes down on.
No, but you can still get it on the device.
Yeah, you can plug it into a.
Yeah, in a router, in the building instead of doing it remotely like they're planning to do now. And secondly, is just because ATS is our internet provider, I don't agree that, I think we should look at other options, like, so what if they can't fix it? Well, if we purchase the unit from somebody else, they'll be able to give us some help to fix it, like.
Counselor Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does ATS have any local employees? Like if something does go down and they have to come out here? So where are they coming from? The Sioux?
Sue?
So it's a 6-hour call out? 12. Well, 12 when they get
Yes.
back, yeah.
That was a decision by former staff, so it's we're committed to, I guess, is a kind word. Mr. Lee?
Through the mayor, if there's any issues with the solar panel, it wouldn't be ATS that resolves that. It would likely be the engineers, because you need technicians. As for monitoring the setup, we can monitor the wattage, like the hydro, but if there's something wrong with the system itself, it has its own hardware. So there would be other issues that wouldn't necessarily just be power. It could be specific panels, it could be the array, like there's other technical issues that you require wireless setup because there's a computer attached to it, right? So it's not just power.
Counselor Sharma?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, I had a conversation with the director today about this. Because I also raised the question of ATS. And I think he will bring something to us. Considering somebody local, because we have somebody local that can do it, no problem. And I think we're probably looking into local providers, right? For tech work and all that.
Coming down the line.
Yeah.
So if we're just gonna receive this as information, that's, are we committing this, we're reading the report, but if we receive it, are we committing to providing ATS to do the work and to this remote? Or, so I don't want to delay the thing, I don't want to delay the onboarding, but I agree. If it's not necessary, there's a cheaper way, or if it's not even necessary, it's free.
So the mayor, the reports for information only, quotes haven't been received yet. Once we receive everything, we'll update council again.
Councilor Bouchard?
Sorry, thanks, Mr. Mayor, again, there's one other thing I think we need to put in the budget is I'm dumbfounded by somebody saying that they didn't think the solar panels need to be cleaned in the winter, but we need to budget for that because you're gonna have to have somebody there almost every day in winter cleaning those off. For them to work and then in the winter, they're already gonna have limited, you'd be lucky if you can 25-30% power out of them in the winter. So the ones in Raymore, and I know the ones in Whisker and all that, they actually have a contractor hired that actually, every time it snows, I mean, an eighth of an inch snow, the solar panels don't work anymore. So they go there with this special generator and they blow them all off. So I think we'll have to budget for that, because that means an employee will have to be out there cleaning them if we want to produce power.
I'm sure you will find a lot of our former or in progress reports are they're gonna dumbfound you like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And sorry, and it's nothing against the person that wrote it, it's the people that originally put it together.
So is there a timeline that we will get in that time from the quotes from the Director of Public Services?
Through the mayor, they've been approached, we've requested the information, like anything else, it takes time.
I don't think we want to delay this any further.
Regardless of when we get the quotes back, the system won't be completely online until it's moved and mostly melted, so we can't access it until spring. That would be our timeline for commissioning and getting it online.
Comments? Everybody's good in receiving the report's information then?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Good. Moved by Councillor Bouchard, seconded by Councillor Charbonneau, be it resolved the council acknowledges receipt of MCO 2025-02 report regarding municipal compliance as attached for information purposes. Questions or comments? We have our municipal compliance officer tonight. Councillor Allen.
I just wanted to say thank you for the update to the municipal compliance officer. It's very detailed and lots of things have been going on, and I'm happy to see some of the things that have been moving forward and that we're moving in the right direction with a lot of things.
Councillor Bouchard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The one thing I'm questioning is this internship program. Can we elaborate on that, please?
Mr. Lefebvre.
Oh,
Jesus. Getting a shot there.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so as we're trying to sort of move forward with building services, one of the options that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing has given to municipalities is to create an internship program. So essentially, you can be a building inspector under the supervision of another qualified building inspector. And that's just one of the ways that we can move forward without having to have somebody physically come down from another municipality to sort of cover through building inspections that we're doing.
Councillor Bouchard.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question is, we have to basically have another employee that we're training to do that? Like,
No, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I essentially was appointed myself as the intern. The ministry had the same reaction, but yeah, I've appointed myself as the intern and under the supervision of Tim and Buddy to do some of the inspections. It'll save some costs, obviously.
okay,
So Bouchard.
thanks, Mr. Mayor. But I was under the impression that you were receiving qualifications a while back. So do you still need to go through this to do?
Yeah, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I haven't gotten all the qualifications for the building inspector. I do have the qualification, the legal chief building official. The inspections themselves are something that we're gonna have to budget for, or, again, I mean, maybe through the internship program, that would be enough.
Councillor Charbonneau?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a quick question because it just talks about the ongoing permits, but I'd like to know how many are still outstanding.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, we've gone through at least a dozen of them. Couple of people, do actually require permits for 2024, and, that's actually going, pretty smooth so far, knock on wood. So I would anticipate that, I mean, hopefully by the end of the month, everybody will be squared away with one option or the other.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Bouchard?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And how long before we get into a proper agreement with Timmins that we had originally discussed for about a 1 year term, where we still working on that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we're still working on that. The draft is completed. I've seen it. Essentially what we're waiting for is the decision on Austin. So Timmins is looking to determine how much the new contract is going to be for their exactly. But other than that, we're on track.
Thank you.
And sorry, I could also include the fact that they're honoring the prices that they had charged us previously, so frankly, if it takes them a little bit longer, it doesn't hurt us.
Any other question, comments? Councillor Charbonneau?
This is just a comment. I just want to say I was very happy to see the truck out doing rounds. It's nice to see.
I will question, do you have a timeline as to when you will have the review of our value of the permits going out versus the cost of the permits we're paying? Just so that we don't go through, well, 3 months, but say 6 months of bringing in a $300 permit value and spending 1,000 to Timmins. At that rate, we're not issuing a permit. Can we have a deadline as to? I'm sure Timmins knows the obviously the reason behind it, but is there a deadline that we can set?
Yeah, so I think obviously the first step to that is going to be determining the cost, on an hourly basis. And then after a few permits and a couple of inspections, we can probably sort of gauge the cost going forward, and I can absolutely bring back a report to council so we can look at that.
I just don't want to get too far into the year and then in the report says to increase building fund values, and property A spends $600 and property B spends $1,200. We'll have another issue on our hands going forward. Any other question, comments from the municipal compliance officer? All right. Having read the resolution, all those in favor?
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah. Moved by Councillor Gattery, second by Councillor Bouchard, be resolved the council receives and acknowledges the 2024 Drinking Water System DWS Annual Summary Reports from Aqua for Holtire, Masson, Raymore, and Valgagne as attached for information. Any questions or comments on this report? Although, Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a note in the report for Holtire, I didn't see anything about them fixing the auto flushers or even building the boxes. I guess maybe the time of the year was too fast, I guess.
Yeah, I think we're doing that around late December, mid-December,
Yeah.
so.
So I think we should make sure to follow up with them in early May or whatever to get that back online.
Okay. do you know the status of them or? Okay, that'll be a question we'll ask, Director of Public Services or, Chris. Okay. Okay, we'll get that answer for you. Councilor Allen.
Also, is there something coming for the Voltaire water? Issues? Specifically, I'm looking at the pilot project and when things are going to be announced. Or put in place or.
Larson?
This will be done during our water and sewer, but.
Okay, perfect.
Any more questions or comments? Have you read the resolution? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councilor Charbonneau, second by Councilor Boucher, be resolved that bylaw number 2025-011 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the township of Black River, Mass. Be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 11th day of March 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Brings us to our question and answer period. And to the public, if you have any questions or comments, stand up, state your name, your ward if you know it. As well, please ensure that it's on the agenda and that you have tried to ask the question of staff first so that we don't railroad them here in front of everybody. So I'll open the floor for anybody that has a question from the audience. Yes, sir.
Just a comment about the rink at Haltire. I'm Don Madigan from Haltire in Zone 1. The rink, the ice is in good shape. The rink's open. 2 years ago, May 20th was the last day of skating. So, any luck, we'll get another week out of it. It all depends on the ice. So hopefully the people who use it, not very many people are using it, but the weather isn't cooperating either, so. Just hope they use it.
Okay, I will, on behalf of everybody here, thank you very much, and March break, so yeah, hopefully some kids get out there and get some exercise.
The snow's beating me up pretty hard.
We can't do anything about that.
So
Councilor Trevor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to share, I had a question brought up to me last week. So I reached out to our municipal compliance officer and he's working very hard to get me the answers. The question was, is there a bylaw for track equipment on roads? Because they live on a back road and there's a lot of bulldozers going on the road and it was making it hard for cars to drive. So like I said, our compliance officer is working hard to go through all our bylaws to get back to me and eventually I'll bring the answer back and.
Okay, good. Good. Councilor McCutcheon.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I've had almost the same concerns from residents regarding track vehicles on the municipal roads not being floated from one location to another. So it's not just it's all over the place. So looking forward to the answer.
Perfect. Moving on to adjournment. Moved by Councilor Bouchard, second by Councilor McCutcheon. Be resolved that this regular council meeting is hereby adjourned at 7:59 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, council members, staff, and residents for showing up.